Hello and welcome. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining me in this video. And I promise not to make this a long one. And I know that most of my videos have been about Minecraft and the Guild Wars 2 videos that I put out. There's been not much interest in them. I get that. And thank you for watching this. So stick with me because I want to talk about why I've been loving Guild Wars 2 so much and why I'm going to have more content coming out about Guild Wars 2. And I want to invite anybody who's watching this to come play with me. Come on. It's really okay. It's a great game to play. It's a lot of fun, and I think you'll find that you'll be playing once you start, you'll be playing for thousands of hours on end. So first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about what Guild Wars 2 is, and then I want to talk about like the top 5 reasons why I like it. Now, I'm not a Guild Wars 2 lore expert. I'm not a Guild Wars 2 expert on any level whatsoever. I just like having fun with the game. And if you want more of the how to play and really expertise on this, there's a lot of channels out there. Wooden Potatoes, Aurora Peachy, MMO Inks, all those guys have a lot more information on like how to play, how to level up, how to become a boss fighter in Guild Wars 2 than I ever probably will. Okay, so what is Guild Wars? Guild Wars 2 is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG as you might know it as, where you are a hero of the world of Tyria, which is also the continent that you're on. And on this world, there's a pretty big history, but suffice it to say that at the current time, the world is being threatened by a series of elder dragons who want to basically destroy everything. And you and the rest of the world are working to defeat the elder dragons and defeat the elder dragons minions, some of which are other people and things that live within the world with you. So why do I love Guild Wars 2 so much? Well, here are my top 5 reasons, and they are kind of in an order, so least important to most important. So number 5, it's free. It's low cost. So it's not totally free. If you want the expansion, which is basically what they're calling the main game now, Heart of Thorns, it's $50 to I think 100 and something. But the base game, Guild Wars 2 itself, is free. Now it's a restricted accounts. I think you can only have 2 playable characters. You can't trade gold or items or something like that. I'm not sure what all. But for this free, you get thousands of hours of gameplay. You get the base game. You get all of Central Tyria. Now I say this is number 5 because I don't think that something being free is necessarily a good thing. Because it's free, it's a great way to get into the game, even to see if you'd like it. Okay, so my cat's meowing at me. Hello. Hello. Oh, hello, Lulu. You shh. You're not going to stop, are you? Okay, so the cat's going to meow in the background. You're just going to have to live with this. I can't think. Go to bed. Right when I want to do this, you start meowing at me. I know. Go on. Go to bed. Your bed's up there. Go to bed. Okay, number 4. Guild Wars 2 is a very lore-rich world. Now, there was the original Guild Wars. There's Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is a different game from Guild Wars, but it's based in the same land, and it has the same lore and this kind of the same storyline as Guild Wars 1, I guess you'd call it. And the story of Tyria, which is the world and continent that Guild Wars is based on, is that, the world was created, the gods came down, somewhere in the evil elder dragons rose up, the gods went away and left everybody to fend for themselves against these very powerful evil dragons. Beyond the main storylines, there's lots of little side nooks and little crannies and things just to discover. There's own stories, their own quests, achievements for these things. So it's not just quests, but it's you contribute to the world. You contribute to this lore on a daily basis, and that is something that I really enjoy. And it's beyond. You can play these games and you see these you see basically a storyline, and you might have little side quests and stuff like this, but nothing, I feel like nothing I've ever seen as much as in the world of Guild Wars 2. Okay, number 3, it's a very balanced game, very balanced systems. They put a lot of thought into how do the mechanics work. Now, in some respects, it's great. In some respects, they're still working out issues and stuff like that. Here's the bottom line. Like in traditional MMO, traditional game playing, I mean, you see this starting in Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, or not the board game, but the book game, all the way up through a lot of other games. Even now, you see that in single player games too. There's no traditional what they call holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS. That mechanic is kind of still around, but basically any profession can step into any of the roles. So you can have a warrior, and I've done this before, be a healer. You can have a warrior. You can have an elementalist be a tank type of thing. Now, different professions are better or worse at some of these things, but basically they don't have that. You don't say, okay, I'm going to be a ranger, therefore I'm going to be a DPS person. You can be a tank if you want, you can be a healer, and any profession can step into any of these 3 roles and do any of it, or all of it together. Some people find this good. Some people can't get their heads around it. It's like I've got to have a healer, I've got to have a tank, I've got to have a DPS. It's something just to get used to. The other reason why it's a good balanced system is where you go in the world and the events that happen within the world and the world bosses and stuff like that. They will adjust themselves to meet what's going on, how many people are there, and who all's there and stuff like that. So if you've got a world boss, and I've had this happen where you haven't had a lot of people and you're going, oh my gosh, there's not enough people to defeat this boss. Well, the boss will scale itself back in order to adjust to meet that. So in other words, it won't be so overwhelming with 15 people than it would be with 60 people, right? It's still going to be hard. It's still going to be a challenge, but it'll work. Also, the areas that you can go to will dynamically adjust your level to match them. So you can have in a hard area, you can have 25,000 hit points, and you go to one of the starter areas and you'll be down to 1,000 hit points. You can't just like level yourself up and then go back to the starter areas and walk through them and not feel there's any danger whatsoever. You'll be adjusted dynamically to match those areas, which is a really cool thing because you can go back to these places and do things within these starter areas, and it's not just a cakewalk for you. So it's very balanced in terms. They've thought a lot about like keeping you engaged no matter where you're at, no matter what kind of weaponry, armor, stuff like that you have. Okay, number 2, there is no one path to progression and achievement, and the cool thing is that level 80 really is not the end of the game. So when I first started playing, I leveled up I started as a warrior because that's what I do, because I'm boring like that. And I leveled him up to level 80, and I ended up doing, figuring out, like, my friend showed me how to do the world bosses and stuff like that. I did that for a while, and and then it became a grind, and I was just like, what am I doing? There's nothing else to do. There's no other things to get done. And I basically quit for a while. I didn't play for probably 4 or 5 months. And I got back in, I started up a new character, and I went a new character, new profession. But even then, I was sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, you know, how many characters and how many races and how many professions can you end up having, and then you're done again. And then I started to discover certain things about the world. And of course, you watch the other YouTubers show you different things about the world that they've discovered too, and you start to realize that this is no, this world is much bigger than what you may think of it. So after you get to level 80, or even before you get to level 80, there's world completion. So completing all of the achievements and renowned hearts, and I say achievements, but the what you would consider the quests, which are renowned hearts. You know, discovering all the little points of interest, discovering all the vistas in the world, getting that world completion achievement. There are other achievements, and there's pages of achievements and collections and things like that that you can do. There's ascended and legendary weapon and armor crafting. There's moving into other areas of the game. So there's PvE, there's PvP, which is a pretty big thing with a lot of people. There's world versus world, which is kind of a modified, I guess, PvP, and it's PvP and PV and world versus world are the two things I haven't even branched into really. And so there's those. Of course, there are other races. There are 5 playable races, and I forget how many professions that you can do. You know, there's like warrior and ranger and elementalists and necromancer and revenant and stuff like that you can do. There's also the living world stories. Now, when you first start the game, you'll actually be doing your story. You start off, when you start a character, you start off in a personal story that will prompt you along as you move through the world and as you level up. And then there's other stories beyond that you can jump into. So there's the Heart of Thorns, there's the Living World Season 2. There'll be more content coming out in the future, I'm assured. So there's no one way that you can do progression and achievement. So your first character, you probably you'll just level up, you'll explore a bunch of the world, you'll finish the personal story to defeat Zhaitan and stuff like that, Zhaitan being one of the Elder Dragons, and then start exploring other things. You'll start doing other things. My number one reason that I love Guild Wars 2 is that you can play the way that you want. There are 3 game modes. There's PvE, player versus environment, PvP, player versus player, world versus world. And each of those can provide literally thousands of hours worth of entertainment, worth of enjoyment. The personal story is basically a standalone game. There's even more content. It is your solo player game. If you've played Skyrim, if you've played Dragon Age Inquisition, if you've played these other games, if you've played Fallout, the personal story is basically a solo game. Now you can do it with other people if you want, but it's basically, I've gone through two books of my personal story completely by myself. And then there's even more content beyond that. You can get very, very far with solo play. You can join a guild and play with other people. You can do all these different things. If you join a guild, you can build a guild hall and decorate it. And I don't know what all goes into the guild halls because I haven't been part of a guild for long enough to get into that part. There are also dungeons that you can go through. There are fractals, which are basically mini dungeons. There are raids, which are some other kind of mini type dungeon type thing. There are dynamic world events. So especially in the Heart of Thorns release, there are areas of those maps where it's a dynamic world event that takes you from one thing to another. Okay, and I've discovered one of them. Which is basically in the first map of the new expansion, where it just takes probably an hour, maybe even longer, to get through this dynamic world event. And of course, you don't have to do everything. You can drop out at any time. You're not going to be penalized for not doing things. But just if you do them, you get the achievements and the loot and stuff like that. There are world bosses, and I forget how many world bosses there are, but it's more than 10 that you can go through. And it's what I call the world boss train, and you just jump from one world boss to the next. And you can defeat them or not defeat them and get achievements for that. And even within the world bosses, there are achievements for doing different things. So one of the first achievements that I got was there's a world boss called Tequatl, who's a minor dragon thing that you have to defeat. And within Tequatl's world boss event, there are different minor achievements that you get, and then at the end, when you get all of those little minor achievements, when you do all those little things, then you get the achievement. You can get the title called the Sunbringer, and so you'll see people running around the world with Sunbringer, and Shatterer is another world boss, and there's a whole bunch of things that I'm actually still working on to try to get. There are jumping puzzles, because everybody knows anybody who loves parkour are going to love the jumping puzzles. Many of these have their own little achievements that you can get for doing these things. There's crafting with several different disciplines. You can be an armorsmith and a weaponsmith and so I've been an armorsmith. I've been a weaponsmith. I've been like my ranger. She's a chef and a huntsman. You can be an artificer and a jeweler and a leather worker and blah, blah, blah. It keeps going on, okay? And there's many, many more things that you can do beyond that. So it's not run through your personal story, get to level 80, and you're done. You move on. You can keep going with different things within the game. So that's the number one thing. That's the number one thing I love about this game is you can play the way you want to play. If you like playing with other people, play with other people. If you want to play by yourself, play by yourself. I've gotten very, very far just on my own. Now, there's going to be a limit to how far you can play on your own. And I'm starting to hit that limit in different respects. So I'm going to have to get into a guild and have people help me and then turn around and help people also. But that's where we're at. Okay, so there are the top 5 reasons why I love Guild Wars, why I've been playing it so long. And I really want to encourage everybody listening to this to come on and play with me and create a character. If you do, let me know and we'll have some fun. I'll walk you through whatever I can to help you out. And you'll probably end up teaching me stuff along the way too. So, all right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being supportive. And have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.